Hi, you're listening to Baachu Talk, a podcast where I share human leadership stories behind public and business services. My name is Bhaskar, and today's guest is Peter Ankerstjerne. This is second part of Baachu Talk with Peter, exclusive for International Facilities Management Association Community, IFMA. Listen in to know when Peter joined IFMA, his journey so far, his memories with IFMA, his vision for the future, and his message for existing IFMA members. Let's continue the talk with Peter. Hi, Peter. Let's talk about IFMA, the International Facilities Management Association. So when did you become a member of IFMA, and talk me through your journey of joining as a member and now progressing all the way to the new chair of IFMA?
Yeah, it's sort of a funny story. I first became member in 2005, and the only reason I became member was, as I said before, we were trying to sort of, in terms of marketing, repositioning ISS more from a cleaning perception into a fully fledged FM company, a FM company that could actually self-deliver all of the services that would be relevant in the setup. And that was the uniqueness of the ISS approach to the market. And then in 2005, we were looking to re-enter the US market as of course we wanted to become a global company. And the US market was, of course, critical to that. So I went and I found this conference called World Workplace, organized by IFMA, the International Facility Management Association. And I was there to see if I could find some acquisition candidates that we could buy. And I very quickly got taken by that. I thought it was a fantastic conference, and it was a great setup. I met a lot of people, and it was really, there was such a nice sort of family ambience to it. I have to say I've been to every conference since 2005. And the funny story was that I was sitting next to the chairman. There was a first-time attendee orientation, and I was sitting next to the chairman, who was Tina Schaus at that time. And she was just, courteously asking who I was, and I explained, and I said, I'm the chief marketing officer. I'm working with marketing in this company called ISS. We have 350,000 employees, but we are not in the United States. And she said, I'm sorry, it must be your accent. I thought you said 350,000 employees, and you're not in the US. Surely you must mean 35,000 employees, because you cannot be that big of a company and not being in the United States. And I said, no, I understand. I probably have a heavy accent, but nevertheless, I do actually mean that we have 350,000 employees, and we are now looking to re-enter the US market. And I told her that story. And it's funny because every time I meet Tina, and she also comes to the World Workplace conferences every year, that we always have a chat and a laugh about that. But she was actually one of the reasons that I engaged so heavily with IFMA. And I was there only from a marketing and a sort of perspective, trying to understand the US market, trying to understand what was on the agenda of FM, and then, trying to see if I could find a couple of acquisition candidates. We did end up buying a few companies in the United States and re-entered the US in 2007. But then I was fastly engaged with IFMA because, it was just such a nice bunch of people. And very quickly, I got involved with the IFMA Foundation, and I joined the IFMA Board of Trustees, the IFMA Foundation Board of Trustees in 2010 to 12. And then that stirred up my appetite to do some of the leadership work and some of the organizational work. So when I was invited to join in 2016 to join the board, I quickly said yes. And that has been a fantastic ride ever since. In 2018, I joined the executive committee. And that's sort of a 4-year commitment where you sort of groomed into the position. So you start as second vice chair, then first vice chair, chair, and then immediate past chair. So you have 4 years where you sort of commit to be part of the association leadership. So that's really a great experience, something I wish everybody would do, because first of all, it's really a good opportunity to pay back to the association and then share some of the learnings that you have. But secondly, it's also a really good learning experience. I mean, you just learn what happens in not only associations but in organizations and businesses. I mean, IFMA is a big business also. I mean, we have 24,000 members across the globe, and we have a staff of 65 people. So, I mean, getting into a board of an organization like that is definitely also something that I value, both from a great learning experience, but also for something that I potentially can use later in my career, going into other boards and using that experience elsewhere. So it's been a fantastic journey.
Oh, that's amazing. I think IFMA and also RICS have done a tremendous job in this COVID crisis in assisting the employees, the members, and also the businesses in how they could evolve and respond to this crisis. Peter, and I've seen you, every other day I've seen you post or in webinars or something, super active and sharing the message, sharing guidance, with regards to all your IFMA colleagues, for all their sterling work that they have done in this crisis. Really, I think they should be really proud of this. I think you were also made fellow of IFMA and also RICS as well, Peter. Right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I was made fellow of RICS in 2015, and then in the year after at IFMA, and that was of course a huge pat on the back and a huge accolade that I'm also incredibly proud of. There's about 100 fellows at IFMA, so it's a very small little group that we have of people who have done something extra for the association and also the profession of FM. So being regarded as one of the select few is of course a huge honor and something that I'm very proud of.
Peter, you have been an avid contributor to International Facilities Management Association. Peter, do you have any memorable moments and individuals on the board?
Oh yeah, I got a ton. I mean, there's so many. It's almost difficult to pull out a few. But I think one of my most sort of valuable memories was that when I was with ISS, we got an opportunity to sponsor the awards dinner that we had at IFMA. And that was the first time I was on stage and sort of introducing the awards banquet and congratulating all the people who was winning awards. And that was a lot of fun. That was a great night. I think the first time we did it was probably, I think it was in 2008 in Dallas, or it may have been the year after. But that's something that stands very, very clear in my memory. When the first time you're on stage and you get that opportunity to sort of address an audience of more than 1,000 people, that's always a big thing and a lot of fun. In terms of people there's really a lot of people who have been, who have stood out, and it's difficult to pull out individuals. But there are some, former chairmen of IFMA, Tom Mitchell. There's one, Tina Schaus, Maureen Ehrenberg, Bill O'Neill, Graham Tier, our current chairman, John Carrillo. So some of these guys have definitely made a big impact and has been a huge inspiration for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Peter. And Peter, IFMA as an international organization, from your global experience as well, Peter, do you find any interesting similarities and differences of facilities management and workplace services across different geographies, Peter? How do you see the whole market globally?
There are, of course, differences between regions, Europe, Asia Pac, and the North America or Latin America, and Africa. But I think what I see is more there's a difference between the big cities like New York, London, Berlin, Hong Kong, Singapore, and then the tier 2 cities. And I think those differences are obvious because, for example, the density is higher. There's more high rises,
the infrastructure is different, but also the willingness to experiment with new ways of working and workplace experience is different. There seems to be a bigger appetite to experiment with new office designs and new setups in some of the bigger cities. And I think that's also where we can see companies like Weworks and other co-working companies like Industrious or Spaces or Notel, that they're sort of focusing on the big city urban areas where we can find some of these new trends that are really reshaping the industry and really challenging us in terms of the way we think about the workplace in the future. I think at IFMA we have done a fairly good job in more harmonizing the playing field across the board and at different parts of the world, where I think there is more of a commonality around how to manage facility management today, how to gather data, how to do engineering, the engineering parts, some of the soft services and so on. Obviously there are still differences, but these differences are more sort of culturally aligned or diversified, really. I mean, cultural differences around the way you manage people, the way you manage subcontractors and vendors and partners in those aspects. So I think, that there are a lot of differences, but I think there's also a lot of similarities, and so I think we're actually in a good place within the industry. I think we have come far in terms of harmonizing the world of FM, but obviously and always there's just a new area that you want to move into, and for me it's a lot about workplace experience, digitalization, resilience and sustainability. And those are new areas that we now need to work with and professionalize and harmonize also. So there's always a new game just around the corner that you need to sort of get involved in and begin to play.
That's brilliant, Peter. Peter, just on that point, Peter, I think the concept of head office, as you rightly said previously, is becoming pretty fluid now. And so do we think, there will be a blend between, what urban cities, shared offices are there, like Weworks, then you have headquarters again in urban cities. Do you think the trend will also shift to local offices and people can pick and choose between working from home, going to, the nearby local offices rather than going to the head offices or the urban shared spaces?
Yeah, I do. I think it's always interesting to talk about the future because, what's really going to happen. You don't really know. But I think what we can see are some tendencies now and some discussions, especially that we're having with clients, that it seems there's a trend moving towards companies still want that big sort of brand statement that you can have through your corporate head office, and maybe even regional head offices if you're a very large organization. But then I think what we will see is that local and to some extent decentralized offices will probably diminish or maybe even go away entirely. Because there are alternatives now in the market, and those alternatives are the flex office space, like co-working spaces, where you can still have a sort of a brand statement, but you have a much bigger flexibility and a community that you want to be part of, and that would make sense from a cost optimization perspective, but also in terms of engaging your employees and allowing them the flexibility to work from wherever they feel it makes sense in their current situation. So I think the working from home setup is here to stay, and I think we'll see a lot more in that area in the future. And then combining that with a new sort of workplace strategy around how your head office should look like, and then how your distributed offices should look like, and then using flex offices as part of that equation and as part of that setup, I think will be, I think a lot of companies are looking towards that already, and will look in that direction in the future, because it just makes sense from a flexibility point of view, that you get rid of some of the assets and then repurpose them into office setups that are much more flexible for the organizations, that they can easily get out of or into if they are growing or if they're downsizing or whatever they are. I think once we have been through these crises, like the crisis we had in the financial crisis in 2008 and 9, I think a lot of companies found themselves stuck with a lot of assets that they just couldn't get rid of at the time. And I think based on that, and now also with COVID-19, where we have set this drive towards working from home, I think a lot of companies will look at their asset strategy and their portfolio and see if is there a way that we can build some more flexibility into this in order to make us more agile for the future.
Oh, that's brilliant, Peter. So, Peter, what resources or website do you recommend for our industry, Peter? Because so many things is moving. There are so many moving parts now, right?
Yeah.
Any like 4 or 5, key websites that you recommend for people to just have a tab on?
Yeah, there are a couple. I mean, I would be ashamed if I didn't mention IFMA's website, of course, which is brilliant, especially around COVID-19 and the resource, the disease preparedness center that we have set up, where there's a lot of information about the COVID-19 and how to get back to work. I would also say FM Link is a good website. There's a lot of good news on. And then there's a couple of websites that I follow, which is the Future of Work, Jacob Morgan, where I think I find a lot of inspiring articles. And then, then there are a couple of blogs, but I would say, social media, actually a lot of the news and inspiration that I find, I typically find either via LinkedIn, where I spend a lot of time on, or via Twitter, and it may be hosted on a website somewhere. There's a link in there, but I'm very topical when I go in and search stuff. So I want to find out something about COVID-19 re-entry plans, or the future of work, or workplace strategy. So I often find that I actually get access to the latest articles and the best research via social media like LinkedIn or Twitter.
Got you, Peter. I think those are definitely useful links. What are your top tips for, or guys, what, at least focus on these things for facility services buyers? And what are your top tips for facility services providers?
For buyers, I think my top tips for buyers is to get more involved in the partnership setup. I fully recognize the importance of procurement and going through the appropriate procurement processes, but don't just leave it up to procurement, because going through the procurement and taking off is important. But I think we need to begin to ask some different questions. We're working a lot with a term called impact sourcing, and impact sourcing is really about what kind of impact do you then make on the society and the community, and how do you make your providers accountable for the way they train and develop their people. Often when you go through some of these processes, you focus very much on the price and the quality that you want to get out of, but I think there's a few other layers that are important. For example, are your partners actually treating their employees well and fair? Are they paying them right? Are they educating them? Are they developing them? Are they providing career opportunities? Are they, providing, if you're in a minimal wage area, Are they providing minimum wages, or are they providing living wages? These are typically the cleaners, the security officers, the caterers, these types of people. And I think to give a top tip or top advice to clients is to say, take a bigger interest in the people that are coming to your premises, and make sure that they are treated fairly and they have opportunities in the company. Also for getting education, language training, whatever it is. But I think some of those aspects are important. So take a more sort of societal approach to procurement. And of course, I fully understand that is reflected in the pricing. But I think having a more loyal and stable workforce actually is a more long-term investment and a long-term value that provided, and maybe not only going for the cheapest price, because very often the company's going to make what the company's going to make. It's sometimes the people providing the services that suffer from either poor salaries or poor working condition or poor leadership, and not having these extra opportunities in terms of education and development. And I think more and more companies should look into that area to put up demands for the way that people are treated and managed, and their opportunities for the subcontractor. And I think those aspects are important.
Perfect, Peter. That's a very, very sharp point for both buyers and providers, Peter. Peter, tell us through your association and any memorable moments with RICS, Peter, because you are also been a fellow of RICS, right?
Yes. Yeah, I have some fond memories working with Neil Shah and Morris in the US side of the business, but also Sean Tompkins and Kat Fontana in the European side. So it's a great organization, RICS, and a lot of members and a lot of good training resources. So it's definitely a very formidable organization.
Thank you, Peter. That's brilliant. So, Peter, IAOP, International Association of Outsourcing Professionals. Yeah, I don't know how you balance your time. This is the third association. Plus, you have a full-time job, plus 4 kids, Peter. So, tell us more about your association with IAOP and any memories of that body as well.
Oh, yeah. IAOP, I joined them. That's probably also around 2005 or 6. We were doing a lot of work when I was with ISS about outsourcing. And actually, it was an external partner I was working very closely with. Who came across and say, hey, there's actually an organization for outsourcing professionals. We've never heard about it before. And we said, they have a lot of cool research. So, I'm going to sign up as a member and then let's see where it goes. And then I attended, I think their first conference I attended was in Las Vegas. And that was obviously a lot of fun. And then I sort of got hooked on that organization as well. They had a lot of great research and continues to put out that research. And then they also had a education program called COP, Certified Outsourcing Professional. And what we did was we actually educated more than 60 people within ISS to become COPs, because we said, it would actually be great to have our people or some experts within the organization educating and training and having conversations with our clients, advising them in terms of how to do outsourcing in the best way to get most value out of the outsourcing relationship, regardless if we would end up with in a deal with them or not, but actually just advising them on how to get the best value out of an outsourcing process. And then we got very much hooked up with IAOP, and then eventually I joined the Strategic Advisory Board with them. So that was a great experience I've had with them, or having with them, because I continue to stay involved with them as currently.
That's brilliant, Peter. Peter, what is one common myth that you want about our profession in general, Peter, the facilities management profession, that you want to debunk?
I think one myth, and I think it's probably a myth that is maybe even strongest within our profession, is that facility management is all about cost reductions and how to lower the price. I think there's definitely a big efficiency focus in FM that has always been there. But I think it's no longer just about how cheap can you go and how much can you drive out cost in the process. It's much more about creating value. And as we talk to more and more clients are focusing now on the people inside of the business rather than only the assets or the building. And I think that's an area that we have worked with a long time within the FM industry, and in particularly within IFMA, to say, how can we make sure that the built environment is supporting what is happening, and all the services around that, of course, is supporting what's happened within the industry, and to make people productive, thrive, and make them engage with the organization, improve their experience of being at work, and that's something that's been going on for the past 10 years. So I think if there's a myth that needs to be debunked and needs to be busted, it's that the facility management is only about cost reductions. It's not anymore. Efficiency is still important, but it's now much more about value creation and how to drive value together with HR functions, IT functions, finance functions, and others in order to really drive up employee engagement and employee experience.
That's beautiful. Peter, very soon, few days, you will become IFMA Chair. It's exciting.
Yeah. Very exciting, yeah.
Any immediate plans, or what is your vision for the organization, Peter?
This is a big topic. I mean, this is a huge honor for me and something that I'm very, very excited about. Obviously, with COVID-19, a lot of the plans and the vision has been a little more put to the side, because for us, at IFMA, it's also about surviving the next year and getting the association through the crisis in the best possible way. We have the responsibility we have 65 employees who have actually, all of them, taking a salary cut to make sure that they also have a job on the other side of COVID-19, which I think is amazing that they have volunteered to do that. We have a big conference, World Workplace, which is happening in Chicago on the 30th September to 2nd of October, which is very, very important for us. It's the biggest event of the year for the association, and it's very critical that we are able to do that. And obviously, with the current situation, especially in the United States these days, that remains a question mark on how we can do that, if we can do that, and if we can, which I of course hope we can, and everybody hopes we can, how many people will actually come and under what conditions, because you still have to maintain the social distancing and keeping people safe and well. But apart from that, the more long-term focus of IFMA is, of course, to get the organization to grow. I believe an organization like IFMA should have 50,000 members. Currently, we have 23,000. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow, and every person who educates themselves or work in facility management should be aware of IFMA and should potentially wish to be a member of IFMA. We have done a lot in terms of legislation, and there's a lot of stuff happening around the legislation at the moment. So also influencing policymakers in Washington, D.C., and also in Brussels, in Europe, and now also, I suppose, in London, now that the UK is no longer part of the EU, is also something that we're focusing on and want to drive forward. So really bringing the organization to a higher level, making it even more international than it already is, and bringing members together through excellent training, also training on new areas like workplace experience and IT and digitalization, and sustainability, resilience, health and well-being are some of the visions that I have for the profession as we move forward, because these are critical areas, and and it's a critical time to be an FM. I mean, I don't think there's ever, in the 40-year history of IFMA, there's never been a more important time than now, where facility management seems to be right at the center of where everything is happening. I mean, it's almost like a perfect storm that's happening around us, and we are right in the eye of the storm, and we can see everything is evolving around us, from the lockdown and getting people away from the office to now reopening the offices, and then going through the reimagination phase, where we're going to bring people back in a new environment, where we're going to implement new technologies. We're going to work with different engagement and experience models, and we're going to work on taking the opportunity to upgrade the environmental issues and sustainability issues, which I think there's a huge opportunity to do that. But we need to educate our facility managers, and we need to train them and inform them about the opportunities which this holds. And I think that part is fascinating and something I'm looking forward to being part of. And it's also, I have a slightly different background than the normal or the previous chairs, because my background is mostly within marketing. Yes. And hopefully I'll be able to bring that to play in order to also branding the association and make it an attractive for new groups of members that we have not historically been as successful in attracting, especially young professionals and the young kids coming out of college, having an IFMA, not an IFMA, but an FM or a workplace education behind them, and helping them to make a career within our profession as a career of choice. I think a lot of people in my generation has sort of stumbled into facility management more or less coincidentally, but now there's a new generation of professional coming in, which has actually made a choice to be in the FM profession, and I think that's also something that brings on a lot of opportunities for the association.
I'm so looking forward for the coming years, Peter. And what's your message for the current members, Peter, for IFMA members?
My message to our existing members is it's a huge thank you. Thank you for being there during the crisis, for being professional. I think the profession is being recognized to an extent that we haven't had before, and I think I've had a lot of conversation with a lot of colleagues within the industry about FMs needs to have a seat at the table in the C-suite and other places like that. I think now organizations are beginning to understand and appreciate what facility management can do, and how important it is, especially in a situation like COVID-19 that we've been in. So I think there's a lot of facility managers out there that have just have done a fantastic job keeping the wheels turning in a very, very difficult situation. And being the first one back to in the office to prepare it for reopening, maintaining the rules around social distancing, making all the logistics work, and that type of thing. So the whole change management that has happened around that, I think, speaks volumes about the profession and about, of course, the IFMA members and how they have been able to adapt on the fly to a situation where it was just not possible to foresee that, and nobody knew, nobody had the answers. So it was really about learning on the go. So I think that is impressive, and that's a message that I want to send to the association members. So that's definitely something to be proud of. And the last 4 to 6 months have really shown that the importance of facility management and what FM can do for the business.
Thank you so much, Peter, for joining Baachu Talk. It's a real privilege to have you with us, especially when you're about to take the reins of IFMA. Thank you so much for sharing your journey so far and your key message for IFMA colleagues. And I'm sure they'll be looking forward to welcoming you, because I'm super excited for you to take the leadership position in IFMA and all your contributions so far, and also what you'll do for the industry in the foreseeable future. So keep inspiring, stay healthy, convey my regards to everybody around you, not just in IFMA, RICS, IAOP, and also your colleagues in JLL. Look after yourselves, Peter. Keep inspiring. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Bhaskar. It's been a pleasure. A lot of fun.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Thank you. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the second part of our Baachu Talk with Peter Ankerstjerne, exclusive for our IFMA members. If you haven't listened to part 1, where we talk about Peter's early life, career, futurist views on FM and workplace, and much more about his personal life, please do visit baachu.com/Baachu Talk podcast, where you will find not just Peter's story, but many more stories of our industry veterans. Don't forget to subscribe, review, and share Baachu Talk podcast. We will see you at the next episode with another special guest. Until then, it's Bhaskar Sundaram signing off.